Hello everyone. So next we are going to look into the next topic of the third module, that is unconditional jump. So there are different types of the unconditional jump we have, as we have already seen the conditional jump. In case of the unconditional jump, there is no condition available, so it is a directly jump from a particular address to a particular address specified within the instruction. Okay, so as it is been given here, jumps to the specified address without any conditions. So there are three types of unconditional jumps we have: S jump, L jump, and jump with a certain address, that is using DPTR and accumulator. So we are going to see one by one. So in case of the first one, that is unconditional jump, we have is S jump. So in case of the S jump, it is a 8-bit address. So what will happen here is we are going to have an instruction S jump. So that is S jump is written like this, S jump, and it is having a address. So it can be some labeled with some it is labeled with certain labels. So on this address it is going to jump. So here in this case it is a 2-byte instruction. First byte is an opcode, so this is 1 byte, okay, and the second byte is the relative target address. So whatever the next I have written, so this is the relative address where the SJMP is going to have its jump, where the next instruction is going to execute. Okay, so the range for the SJump is, it is between the range of plus 127 forward and minus 128 backward. So what is this forward and backward in the sense? So usually we know like how the program it will flow from first instruction to the next instruction, third, second, third, like this. It is going continuing for the further instruction. Okay, so when it is executing the next instruction, it is called as forward, and when it is in the reverse order, then it is going to be backward. So it can go for plus 127 byte and backward for minus 128 byte. So we are going to see in the example how it will be done. So this is about the S jump. So next is L jump. So as we have seen in case of S jump, it is just a short jump, whereas this is a long jump. So what is this long jump in the sense? So the difference between the S jump and L jump is only between the range of the address it is going to trace. In case of the S jump, it is plus 127 to minus 128 byte, whereas in case of the L jump, it is between 64 kilobyte range, that is within the range to 0000 to FFH. Within this range it can trace any of the, it can have any of the address. Okay, so as it has been mentioned, it is a 3-byte instruction. First byte is for the opcode. So L jump, to have this L jump opcode, we will be having the first byte, and next 2 bytes are meant for the relative address. So it is going to have within the range of 0000 to FFH. So this is called as an L jump or long jump. Okay, so next is a jump where it is going to it is indirect kind of the jump, where it is going to calculate the relative address using the DPTR data pointer register and the accumulator. So it is going to sum the accumulator content and DPTR content, and it is going to generate with a particular relative address. That relative address is going to be offset. On that offset it's going to jump. Okay, so this is how it's going to jump to the particular address. So we are going to see one example how this jumps are going to take place. So here in this case you can see one example. So this side, whatever you can see, this is a program counters content, and here we can see related opcode and the instruction and its name related what you can say is the registers mentioned. Okay, so org00h in the sense is going to start at the 00h location, then move r0,0h. So we already know, like whenever you are having any instruction, so for that any instruction we will be having a certain opcode. So whenever it comes move r0, some immediate data, so it is just as if a 78. So you can see it is 78, it has been written. So similarly for each of the thing, for each of the instruction we have related opcode available. Okay, so here in this case, as you can see, move r0, 0, move a, 55. So accumulator is loaded with the 55h. So it is going to check the content of the accumulator. So we know how this jump 0 is going to work. So jz, in the sense it is jump 0. So it is going to check the content of the accumulator, whether it is 0 or not. Obviously it is not 0, in the sense it is going to jump when the content of the accumulator is 0. Okay, so where it is going to jump is, it is going to jump to the next, what is the next level. So this is the next level where it is going to jump. Okay, so next instruction is what? Increment r0, increment ra, increment accumulator, increment a. Like this is going to work. Okay, so suppose it is going to jump to the next level, that is this level, how it is going to work. So here you can see, as it is being given jump to the particular address, how it is going to jump is, it is going to add the program counter content. So there may be a question like why the program counter content is 0006. So always we know like that program counter is going to point to the next instruction which is to be executed. So it is going to be 0006 plus 3. So this is the 3. So where this 3 comes from? So this is the 3 which is related to this next address. Okay, so this 03 plus 06, it's going to get the relative address. So this is going to get to the level where you are going to have the address for the next address, that is this one. Okay, so this address, so this is at the 0009. So how come this has come 0006 plus 03? Okay, so it is going to get you to 0009. Okay, so this is the address where you are going to get the instructions available for the next level. Okay, so this is what you can say is normal jump, where you are going to calculate the effective address, and you are going to jump to the location where you want to perform certain task, right? So similarly there is one more jump instruction which is given, jump no carry over. So it is it to check the carry bit, whether the carry is 0 or not. So if it is not 0, then it is going to jump to the over. Where is the over? So this is the over address where it is going to jump. So how it is going to calculate again? So this is the 05, so it is a relative address. So it is added with the program counter content. So program counter content is 000d. So 000d plus 5. So 000d in the sense is 13 plus 5. So it is going to be 18 in decimal, but in hexadecimal is going to be 12, right? So it is where it is going to jump, right? 00012 is what? It is the address where the next instruction it is going to execute. Okay, so from here to here it is getting jumped, right? So 0012, on this address I will be having the instruction add a rc. So this is the instruction where you are going to take your program counter and it is going to execute the next instruction. So similarly we have one more instruction called jnc. So in case of jnc, you can see jnc again. So this jump not carry, so again it is going to check the carry. So if it is not 0, then it is going to jump to the address again. Where is that again? So this is the again. So from here to here it is going to jump. How it is going to do this task? So 0015, that is the next instruction, next content, that is program counter's next address, program counter content, and added with the address, relative address after. So it is going to take you to this one. Okay, so here what we are going to go, so 0007 is the address where we are going to execute our next what you can say is instruction. Okay, so this is how it is going to work with the. So similarly we have sjump here. So it is going to sjump here, in the sense the same instruction is going to continually working with, and it is going to repeatedly going to be there on this location only, right? So this is how it's going to work. So next, after this we have the call instructions. So why the call instructions are used? So call instructions are used to call the subroutines. Okay, so first of all, what do you mean by the subroutines? In the sense, subroutines in the sense, these are the sub programs written for the main program. Okay, so whatever the main program we have, so for that we will be writing the sub program. So what is the necessity to write the sub program? In the sense, So if you are having certain tasks which you want to repeatedly execute, so instead of keep on writing that same instructions many times, what you can do is you can write that instruction or the program somewhere else, and you can name it, and you can call it whenever you require within the program, right? So this is how you are going to write the subroutines or subprograms. Okay, so that's what it's been given here. Subroutines are used to perform the tasks that need to be performed frequently. Okay, so the task which you want to perform frequently, you need to mention it as in a subroutine or a sub function, and you need to write in some other locations, and you are going to call it whenever you want to whenever you want to execute that. Okay, and one more benefit of the subroutine is that it's going to save the memory space, right? So how come it's going to save the memory space? In the sense, usually what will happen is, so if you are go on writing the multiple instruction, okay, whenever the particular suppose you have an addition task, and you require some 10 times addition task, so instead of writing 10 times addition task, if you write only once that addition task within the subroutine, and if you will go on calling whenever you require the addition, so it is obviously it's going to save your memory space, right? So this is how the call instruction is used. So what are the different type of call instructions we are going to see. Okay, so first is the call. So it is called as an absolute call also. So the range for this one is 2 kilobyte. So why this range is 2 kilobyte? In the sense, it is going to use the 11-bit address. So we have for this we have a concept. So let me take you to that concept first. All right, so this is usually how the range will be specified for. So you can see like this is a conditional jumps. We have different conditional jumps. So for the conditional jumps, the range is plus 127 to minus 28. Within this range, it's going to perform all its tasks. Means the jump is going to happen within this range only, right? So for absolute jump, the range will be 2 kilobytes. Okay, so this is a 2 kilobyte range. So it is going to have one page. So this is what, this is one single page, right? So and there is one more jump we are going to have, that is L jump. We are going to set it next, right? So the range for that one is 64 kilobytes. So within the 64 kilobyte, anywhere it can jump, right? So this absolute jump, right? So you can see how that absolute jump is designed is, it is going to have a pages. Okay, so one page size will be the 2 kilobyte, right? So for 2 kilobyte you require the 11-bit address, right? So you can make that on your calc also, you can check it. So whenever you make 2 raised to 11, so it is going to be 2 kilobyte address it is going to take you, right? So 2 kilobyte of the address it is going to take, sorry, to whenever you take, sorry, so whenever you are taking this address, so particularly for this address you are going to, means it is going to have the 32 pages. So whenever you are going to take the 11 bits are going to decide the 2 kilobyte, right? So as we know, like we can access to 64 kilobyte of the memory. So if you can divide just 64 kilobyte divided by 2 kilobytes, so it's going to be 32 pages. So we can access from our 8051 microcontroller total of the 32 pages, right? So each page size will be of 2 kilobyte, right? So whenever you are using the absolute jump, so absolute jump should be within this range, that is within the range of 0002 7D0H like that, or 7D1 to FA0 like that. So within any range, but the range should be within of 2 kilobytes, right? So this is for the absolute jump. So that is for the absolute jump. So it is how it's going to decide, right? So similarly, okay, so this is for the absolute jump, absolute call, or absolute jump. So whenever in general, whenever you talking about the absolute, so it is going to have the range of 2 kilobyte, right? So it's the absolute call. Within the absolute call, unconditionally calls the subroutine located at the indicated address, so within the range of the 2 kilobytes. So how it is going to be decided is based upon the 11-bit address, right? So we are going to have the syntax call with the target address. So target address will be half the size, so it is 11 bits, right? So byte size for this call instruction is 2 bytes. So within this 2 bytes, 5 bits are meant for this call, and left 11 bits are meant for this target address, right? So this is how it's going to form the 2 bytes, and it uses 2 motion cycles. None of the flags are going to get affected, right? So how it is going to work is, whenever you call, so what will happen is, the program counter is going to be incremented by twice, and whatever the next instructions address are available, those 2 bytes are going to be dumped on the stack memory, right? So that's what it is being given here. Program counter is going to be incremented by twice. First time when it is incremented, so that time the lower byte will be loaded onto the accumulator first, right? That is, as you know, usually the stack pointer will be pointing at the address 07H, so it will be incremented. So here it is going to be incremented, then lower byte will be dumped on the stack memory using the stack pointer, then again it is going to be incremented, and it is going to dump the higher byte of the program counter to the stack memory through the stack pointer, right? So this is how all the address which is available after the next instruction, that will be dumped, and the target address which you have to execute, that will be taken to the program counter. Okay, so this is how the call absolute call is going to work, right? So the syntax for this one is, you can use a call, and you can mention some address here, like level. So this can be a label. So this can be a label where the call is going to jump, right? So this has to be within the range of 2 kilobytes, right? So this is how a call or absolute call is going to work. Next is L call. So previously it was a call, that is absolute call, and now it is a L call, it's a long call. So this is also unconditional call. So in this case, what it is going to have is, the difference between the call and L call is, there the range is within the 2 kilobytes, but here the range is 64 kilobytes. That is, within this range it is going to work, right? So how it is going to work? L call target address. So it is having 3 bytes and 2 machine cycle. None of the flags are going to get affected. So all the 3 bytes, within this 3 bytes, 1 byte is meant for the L call, and 2 bytes are meant for the target address. So it is going to increment 3 times. Program counter is added with 3 bytes. That is, program counter, that is the first byte, L call, and the left all 2 bytes are of these 2 address. Okay, then here also the same thing. Whenever the call instruction comes, whatever the address of the next instruction is there, that has to be loaded on the stack memory. The same process is going to repeat here. Stack pointer will be incremented to by 1. So the means, earlier it was like I said, it was there in 07 address, it will be incremented to 08 address. Now it is going to load the P70, that is the program counter's lower byte, to the stack memory through the stack pointer. Then again it's going to be incremented by 1. Then it next is the higher byte, whatever the higher byte of the program counter is, that will be loaded to the stack memory to the stack pointer. Okay, and program counter itself will be loaded by the address, 16-bit address. So this is nothing but this target address, right? So this is the new address on which the call is going to be taken place, and the program counter is going to execute the instruction available on that address, right? So after that L call, we have next is return instruction. So this is whenever you are performing call instruction. So with this call instruction, we need to have one more instruction. It's called as the return instruction. So this instruction should be there in your subroutine. Okay, so how it is going to work is, this instruction will be written in subroutines, and this will be written as this, like RET. None of the flags will be affected. 1 byte it requires. 2 machine cycle it is going to use. So how it is going to work? Whenever the RET comes, the stack pointers, whatever the stack pointer content will be there, that will be, means the stack memory content will be directly loaded to the higher byte of the program counter. Stack pointer will be decremented by 1. Then again the content will be, again the stack pointer's content whatever will be there, that will be loaded to again program counter's lower byte. Okay, again it will be decremented by 1. Okay, so usually whatever the things happen in case of your call instruction, exactly reverse happen in case of your return instruction. Okay, so this call and return, you can imagine this like an thing where you are just using a mobile and you are playing some games, and during when you are playing a game, you will get on call. Okay, so this is nothing but you are going to pause your game and you are going to take that call. Okay, so that pausing is nothing but you are just as if you have to think like you are going to store that relative address to certain stack memory, and once the call is get finished, you are going to retrieve to the same position where you paused. Okay, so this is how the things are going to work. Okay, so this is about the return restriction. So next is the RETI. So RET, what is this RETI in the sense? This is the return from interrupt. Okay, so RET is return from subroutine and RETI is the return from interrupt. Okay, so this is the difference between RET and RETI. In case of the RETI, as you are writing the as you are writing in case of your subroutines, RET, it is going to work in case of your interrupts. Okay, so interrupts will be having the interrupt service routines. So interrupt service routines, at the end of the interrupt service routine, you need to include this instruction that is called RETI. So whenever this RETI instruction comes, so it is the end of a interrupt service routine, and it is going to take you from the interrupt service routine to the call instruction where the particular program or the main program is paused, and again you are going to retrieve from there, right? So syntax is RETI, and it is used to it is used in the interrupt service routine. 1 byte instruction, 2 machine cycle it use, none of the flags are getting affected. So similarly, it is going to it is also going to be used in the same way. Program counters higher byte will be loaded with the stack pointer. Again, it decrement program stack pointer will be decremented by 1. Then again, program counters lower byte will be decremented by stack pointer. Okay, so that is how it is going to work. And again, stack pointer will be decremented by 1. Right. So similarly, as it was done in case of your RET, so same thing it's going to happen in case of your RETI. But the difference is there it was in case of your subroutine, but here it is in case of your interrupt service routine. Right.